I'm in here. So hello, I'm glad to see you. And we'll be looking at week 10 office hours. I hope you enjoyed your first week back after your midterm exams and your break. So we're all ready and raring to learn more wonderful information about operating systems. Again, there's a very competitive job market out there, and the more you know, the more job security and marketability it is. So take the time now while you are in school to learn as much as you can and ask as many questions as you can to help them, give yourself the skills and knowledge needed to be very successful in the workplace. Okay, also with week 9, we just completed week 9, and there appears to have been some discrepancy in the assignment exercise. It appears there's various versions of this textbook that are floating around, and some of the instructor resources that I were given contained a mix-up in the different versions. So the question 12.3 that you all answered was the correct one. I do not have a version of that question in any of my documentation, so I'm glad you found it, and I'm glad that you were able to then answer the correct question. But the other question was also given, so either one will work for your credit. I gave substitute assignment credit. However, the substitute assignment credit I gave was really for the actual assignment. So all is well. I'm glad you found your way and did answer the correct question from your version of your textbook. So all is well. And all of you answered it correctly, so I don't think there's any issue in not understanding the question or giving the correct answer. But you all can hear me correct, is that, yes? Everybody can hear me, I'm hoping, yes? I'm talking away here, can you hear me? Okay, good, I'm glad you can hear me. So now I'm wondering, I'm just talking to screen here. Good, I'm glad you can hear me. Again, welcome again. Welcome back. We are in week 10. Hopefully you enjoyed the midterm exam and your break. So you're raring now to continue on with new information. We did just complete week 9. Again, I did mention about the exercise confusion. However, all of you answered the correct version of the question, which again I was not given access to other than what was in the textbook, but other documentation that was given as instructor resources seemed to have been incorrect. So I applaud you for answering the correct question, and I applaud you all for coming up with the correct answer. So, and in general, we went over mass storage structure. I did place some videos on the announcements page where perhaps you're able to look at different devices and understand a little bit about how they work. And based on how they work, will determine as well as to how the operating system will interact with them. Also, the device drivers. All devices have device drivers that may or may not be included with your operating system. If they are not included with your operating system, typically the device will come with a disk that will have the device driver that you can then just load onto your computer, and your operating system will then know to use that device driver from the manufacturer when it's using that device, or when you are using it. So we looked at communication between hardware and software, more or less, and the software were typically the mass storage devices. Any questions on Chapter 9? These are your topics. Make sure you understand these topics. Take a brief, write a brief summary or a description for each of these topics so that you can use it as a study guide for the final exam. I think this area is pretty familiar to you because a lot of these storage devices, you are using them. So you are using the disk. You have the hard disk drive in your computer. You have DVD drives or CD drives. So it perhaps was familiar to you. And some of the more advanced or more larger storage devices that you will probably see in the workplace, you may not have in your home, obviously, but they do exist in workplaces, such as the RAID is a very popular one. And also structures on how to use a network when you have a storage server, or how to, just have a storage network that can be accessed. So hopefully you were able to look into that and understand the various devices and the various strategies. These, hopefully you had a chance to look at all your resources and materials. And then again, the discrepancy, this is the 12.3 that I had, which is different from what you had, even though the textbook did list the correct one. But again, I was going off of instructor resources, which were incorrect. Next time I will verify with the textbook before I offer it to you. But this is the one that you all know and love, and this is the one that you answered. So here's the solution to that. I quickly wrote this out for you so that you have it as well, but pretty much everybody answered it correctly. And now for the optional exercises. I did give you a list of 10 optional exercises. Again, these are very helpful for you to review, to answer. You know, the more activity you involve yourself in the topics for a particular week, the stronger knowledge you will get and the more understanding you will also get. So it's a good idea to explore these questions and answer them if you can. You can work in groups. Working in groups is always a wonderful strategy, in that you can learn from each other. Some of you may have questions, some of you may understand it. So you can share your information, your knowledge, and get questions answered, and it allows you then to have a stronger information. For this one, we have various answers. It is actually D. So constant linear velocity, density of bits per track is uniform. I guess you can think of that as constant and linear as to an example of uniformity, or just words that mean the same as uniformity. The word constant, anything that's constant means it remains the same and never changes. So that is the answer for that one. Solid state disk, commonly used which disk scheduling policy? There you go, first come, first serve, that is correct. And the solid state disks, we are more familiar with those. We are seeing them various versions of them, and some with advanced technology in many of our devices, especially our mobile devices. When things have to be smaller, you don't want any working parts. Working parts are larger devices, and as we move to smaller and smaller devices and mobile devices, we need to rely more on the SSDs and versions of the SSDs. So to be current, again, this is an area for you to explore. It's always best to know the latest and greatest. We are learning some theoretical concepts and some, historical accounts of how this technology has been revolutionized over the years. But to know the latest and greatest, the best assets you can go to would be online. Start Googling, join professional organizations. This gives you the ability to know the latest and greatest. Or just even manufacturer websites. They're always going to be talking about the newest technology that they have coming out. So know what devices you have, and also know what you can add to your devices, or what are the newer versions of your devices that are coming out. That'll give you an edge in the workplace to know the latest and greatest, and also good information. Again, when a company needs to buy new hardware and software, you always want to make sure you're going to be addressing what's coming in the future. You don't want to have everybody buy old equipment that becomes obsolete in 6 months. for a company, you always have to keep that into account. You know, once you purchase, you may be purchasing in volume. You know, you have to purchase for a lot of employees. So you want to make sure that what you purchase will still be good a couple of years down the road. Otherwise, a company can't be buying new equipment every 6 months. So keeping a track of that is always a great way. And also these professional organizations, manufacturers, and the internet gives you this information. Okay, optional exercise 3, describe some advantages and disadvantages of using SSDs as a caching tier and as a disk drive replacement compared to a system with just magnetic disks. So this is kind of a short answer, so there's a lot of information here, but we already know the advantages of an SSD in general. There's no moving parts, so you don't have to worry about having those parts working and getting those parts to work. And magnetic disks always have the issue of they can be demagnetized. Anything that can be demagnetized means it can lose the data. So something that is permanent, that cannot be subjected to losing data based on your environment or breaking down based on how it's constructed, are the basic, advantages to deciding then on SSDs, because they're faster, no moving parts. Also, they can't be demagnetized. So go and look, what are the SSDs out there? Are you having any versions of these SSDs on your devices? Something for you then to explore. Do you have it on your devices? Are there versions of this on your devices? What are the ones used on your devices? So use what you have as a case study. What you have is not too far away from what you will see in the workplace. But also know what's the latest and greatest out there. You only have a couple versions of what's out there. So it's always good to know everything that is out there and collaborate with each other to know what you have. You did a wonderful job in the discussion forum. A lot of you shared what you have. So do share this information with each other. Do place it in a discussion forum so everybody can see it. And then, see this valuable information you're posting, and then also add their own. So the more you work with each other offering your information, the more you can learn. So please do that. Okay, optional exercise 4. So what do you think here? No, we got a consensus on A. There we go, you are correct. So these are algorithms. I know you love your scheduling algorithms, from scheduling of processes now to scheduling of disk. Input-output is considered a process, as we will be learning in this upcoming week with week 10. It's just another kind of process. So scheduling, as we schedule processes, we schedule here. Input-output is just another process. But your process is working with hardware, but also any kind of process works with hardware. You're working with the CPU. They all work with the CPU. You just have this added extra dimension of actually working from a device, not just from memory. You have a device now that is where the data or information is coming from. Okay. Here we go. So we're kind of going through all the different scheduling. You had the first come, first serve. Now we have SSTF, and that's C. So hopefully you are familiar. Again, there's information in your textbook on how to come up with these answers, as well as extra videos. So do make sure you understand it. It's only for your benefit. Will it be on the exam, final exam? Maybe. But still, it's good for you to know. You should know it even if it's not on an exam, because you're going to be tested in the workplace. We can prepare you with these exams for the workplace, but when you're in the workplace, not all the questions, we may not have covered all the questions in the final exam that you may be asked by your boss or your supervisor. So it's good to know more, or else know how to look for the information, where you can find it always have resources and references that you can access. It could be other people, it could be other textbooks, it could be other videos, it could be links that you found online. But one thing is to know how to find the answer. Any workplace environment you walk into, you're not going to know everything. But if you could know how to learn and know how to look it up, then you will be successful. Okay, now this goes through C-SCAN. Again, we're just going through the different algorithms, which is something that you did address anyway when you completed the answer, the correct question, exercise. You are correct, it is D. Okay, which of the following disk head scheduling algorithms does not take into account the current position of the disk head? There you go, first come, first serve. Right, it doesn't need to because it's first come, first serve. Very simple. Simple question and answer. What are the factors influence the selection of a disk scheduler algorithm? Now this is good to know. Again, especially if you're writing operating systems. Now we think about these operating systems. There are some standard ones that are on the market. However, you are in a unique evolution right now where there's a lot of mobile devices, and our concentration on our use of technology has kind of changed. It's not the way we historically used a computer. We now have these mobile devices and this internet access and this social media networking that has now driven companies to create new operating systems for their specific device. And historically, we had computers, and you either were an IBM PC compatible or a Mac compatible. So you had the hardware and the software to deal with those worlds. However, now everybody's coming out with mobile devices that have their own hardware, and those old operating systems just don't work. They don't address those specifics, and the mobile devices are not universal. What you run on your iPad, you cannot, on your iPad, you cannot run on your Android. And now there's the Chrome that has its own operating system. There's Xfinity that has its own operating system. So new operating systems are coming on the market now. So this is a unique advantage for you if you become very skilled and knowledgeable about operating systems. That will then allow you or open you to the market of companies that are then creating now their own operating systems. So know the old ones, but also know the new ones coming on the market, and then see where your strength and knowledge is. Maybe you could be part of a team that would be creating these new operating systems coming on the market, because mobile devices don't have a standard. And that's the whole frustration right now for anybody developing applications, that they, instead of dealing with the standard operating systems out there, they're creating their own. Because what they have will definitely work very well and nicely on their mobile device, accessing their hardware, because their hardware is specific. So good information, but here are these algorithms. So these are some strategies to use when you do decide on selecting disk scheduling algorithms. Obviously, you're going to be looking at what your device has if you are moving into the mobile application development. So depending, again, where your passion lies, where your natural gift to understanding it quickly lies, will then determine what area you should be concentrating on. Okay, describe one technique that can enable multiple disks to be used to improve data transfer rates. Bit level stripping consists of splitting the bits of each byte across multiple disks. There's also block level stripping, where blocks of a file are stripped across multiple disks. So again, something for you. Then go into section 12.72 if you want to understand this further. But it is something you will need to look at if you're going to go into mobile application development for the newer or the creation of new operating systems. You will have to understand this. And then which of the following statements regarding solid-state disks is false? Anybody? Yeah, let's look at all of them. They are not like magnetic discs, so it's not B. Are they more expensive? They have no seek time or latency, and they generally consume more power. Let's see, what is it? They generally consume more power than traditional hard disks. That is correct. And I think anytime you use your smartphone, there's a good indication of this. Most definitely, when you use applications on your phone, something for you to monitor and then see, depending on what application you're using, does your battery go down faster? Or are there some applications on your smartphone that say, plug in your smartphone while you use this application because it assumes a lot of power? So something for you to look at. And what is that correlation to the use of power to the application and then to your storage? Something for you then to expand what you're learning here into your actual own real case studies. Okay, any questions then on Chapter 12 or Week 9? Get on the questions again, start preparing now for the final exam. Make sure you have a reference list of the topics for Week 9, Chapter 12. Make sure you have these answers to these questions, and also look at the other exercises in the chapter and see if you can answer them. That'll strengthen your knowledge on the material. And again, prior to final exam, I will give you then the answers to all the exercises at the end of the chapters. But right now, we are just reviewing what we're reviewing. You can now take an attempt to answer those exercises, and then I will be giving you all the answers so you can compare your answer. If you want it sooner, post it in a discussion forum. If you want some answers faster, post it in the discussion forum, and then I will then follow up with a response and include it. So that's up to you what you want to know. Okay, so we're looking at input-output systems now. We did touch upon this actually when we looked at processes, because input-output was a type of a process, and we did see that there was a separation. There was right away the kernel will determine. I mean, there was a determination as to what kind of process it was, and input-output was kind of handled or identified as a type of process that was handled and even had its own queue. So operating system kernels, input-output subsystem providing numerous services, such as scheduling. We all know I love our scheduling. But then now we have buffering, caching. We did already look at that when we talked about memory and processes, spooling, device reservation, and error handling. So input-output system calls usually block the processes that issue them, but non-blocking asynchronous calls are available for the kernel and applications when needed. So we'll look at what that means. Again, review the resources. We'll go over all this in more detail on Wednesday when we have the virtual live class. Here's your topics for Chapter 13. Make sure you list out a brief description for yourself that you could use it then for a study guide. Even put down page numbers, where this information or sections, where this information is found in your textbook. Also add to your resources. Thank you for all of you who are putting links in the discussion forum with additional information as a possible, as references for your information in this class and to use as you study and understand the topics and study for the final exam. Here are the assignments. Hopefully I have them correct this time. Except it's not, I'm sorry, it's Chapter 13. I got to change this slide. I do apologize. Chapter 13, not Chapter 9. When you start reading Chapter 9, you'll know you already did it. And then there's an article. Now these articles, they do give you some additional information just to add some case study currency to what you're learning. Some of the information is historic, theoretical concepts. These articles kind of bring to you what's being done in the real world. And that's a good area for you to explore. In the workplace, you have to be current. You can't talk about theory and concepts and history, but you have to know what's being used in the here and now. So these articles help give you that information. So we have this article, and again, it is posted in the discussion forum so you can share your information, but you also need to post it, you should post it in the Dropbox. There's a special Dropbox for your answer as well. So this way, there's no points, but it is covered, and it is something to discuss. And again, it's just something good to know because it is current. It's a case study. And you never know, people in a workplace may have seen this article. When you become an IT professional, it's important for you to keep up with all these articles and what people are talking about, what kind of reviews are out there, what's good, what's bad. You can hear about best practices and standards. This will prepare you for the workplace, and also it'll give you something to bring up and talk about when you are in the workplace, because it makes you sound knowledgeable. You're keeping track. The technology changes so fast, and again, it's a very competitive market. There's a lot of people who know some stuff, but if you know more, and if you keep current with what's coming out, the latest and greatest, then you will be a more valued asset for a company. So that's that article. Do post some information. You can discuss it amongst yourself and collaborate in the discussion forum. Also post something in the grade book so that it's legitimate when I give you no points, but at least shows you did it. And these are your exercise 13.6. Hopefully I got this one correctly, but this is the 13.6 that I have. I didn't verify this yet with the textbook, but I'm sure you will all let me know. Also, I will continue grading. I did not complete all the grades for week 9, but I will be doing this after the lecture. And then I will post an announcement that all the grades have been completed. Again, if you are behind, if there were extenuating or emergency situations where you couldn't complete things on time, you can still complete them and submit them. Also, with the virtual class, if by some chance they do want you in the virtual class on the Wednesdays, they will be looking to make sure you're there. But if an emergency comes up, then you can email to me a summary of the recording, and then you can get credit. So depending on where you are and what you're doing and what's happening to you in life. Okay, so it looks like I got the correct question. Yay. And then, as usual, I have additional 10 questions for you to look at and to answer. If you have questions on them, bring them into the discussion forum. Bring it up as a discussion so we can all see it. You may also, see that you're discussing amongst yourselves, but not everybody in the class can see it unless you put it in a discussion forum. You may have your own little study group, but there might be more of the students who are not part of your study group. So it would be nice if you can put everything in the discussion forum so everybody can see it. All your classmates then can be a part of it. So here are the additional questions. Okay, so here we go. I'll cut short early here. Again, office hours are optional, but I thank you so much for joining. You'll get the kind of the information that I'm looking for and that are required for you for this upcoming week. You get the additional optional exercises that you work on together. Again, all the optional exercises, the answers are always given on the following Monday. So you will see these answers on next Monday for the week 11 office hours, and I will post these slides in the discussion forum so you'll have access to it. And again, bringing it into the discussion forum for this week. Also, start discussing the article, or maybe you found another article in response to this article. That would be very nice for you to include. But you have to set aside a routine where you do go and explore some scholarly articles and professional organizations, because this changes all the time and you can't take a class every time things change. So you have to have your own personal routine. You have to set aside some time where you then just go and explore and learn the newest things coming out. This is very helpful and beneficial for you as an employee. It is then called job security. You have to be aware of these things. It will set yourself apart. Everybody knows what they learned in school, but if you know that extra of what's coming, the newest things to come out, you explored it because you had a routine where you just took time to do this. That is something that, for example, if you know Mr. Bill Gates, the owner of Microsoft, the founder of Microsoft, every year that's what he does. He takes 1 week out of every year where all he does for that 1 week is read new articles, new books, looks at new software. So he sets aside that time 1 week every year, then that's what he does. Now for us, obviously we're not as busy as this man, or we don't have a company like this man. But for you, you should do it a little bit more. He's already got something established, but if you want to get established, set aside a routine, and preferably more often than 1 week every year. You should actually set aside something every week if you really want to be a star in the workplace and if you really want to set yourself apart. So that's my little commercial break here to give you strategies outside of the classroom to keep you successful as an IT professional. But you still need to learn this material, and please learn it. Set up a routine. Again, as I mentioned before, and I will always mention, I can't put it in your brain. Only you can put it in your brain. So find a way that works for you, that allows you then to put this in your brain so that you will know it and you will be successful in the world. Okay, so any questions, anybody? If not, have a wonderful evening. You could use this extra time. Again, we're not required to be able to use this time now to get going on some of the work. And have a wonderful evening, and I will see you on Wednesday. Again, post in the discussion forum resources, questions, comments, knowledge, and share with your classmates. Goodbye.